A stay-at-home mom can run a household, raise children, hold every detail in her mind, and still feel guilty buying herself a $5 coffee. Not because she's irresponsible, because she was trained to believe that money only belongs to the person who earned it. She can give her time, her body, her identity to a home, and still feel like a visitor in the finances that keep that home alive. Culture calls her the heart of the family, but treats her like a guest in its money. So every purchase becomes a question. Do I deserve this? Is this allowed? Am I taking too much? She isn't fighting overspending. She's fighting conditioning. Because the system she grew up in didn't just praise her sacrifice. It taught her her value doesn't count unless money touched her hands. And that's how a woman who keeps a family running ends up negotiating with guilt she never chose. She isn't born feeling guilty about money. She's taught to. Long before she ever becomes a stay-at-home mom, she watches the world divide work into two categories: the work that earns money and the work that keeps everyone alive. One gets praise, status, identity. The other gets silence. So when she steps into motherhood, she steps into a role shaped by generations of women who held families together but were treated like they contributed nothing. She becomes the backbone of the home, yet the system talks about money as if it belongs to everyone except her. And without anyone saying it out loud, she learns the rules she's expected to follow. The provider deserves, the caregiver justifies. By the time she buys something as small as coffee or skincare, her brain reacts like she crossed a line she was never supposed to touch. The first dark truth is this: a stay-at-home mom doesn't feel guilty because she spends too much. She feels guilty because she was taught her contribution doesn't count. From childhood, she watched the world treat money as proof of effort, proof of worth, proof of who deserves what. And because no paycheck has her name on it, her brain assumes she's not allowed to take up space in the financial decisions she manages every day. She keeps the home running, yet is treated like a guest in the budget. When she buys something for herself, even something small, her nervous system flinches like she's breaking a rule she never agreed to, but was raised to obey. The tension isn't about spending, it's about permission. Permission she never learned to give herself. Here's the deeper truth. The guilt isn't about the purchase, it's about the position she was placed in. The moment she became a stay-at-home mom, she stepped into a system that runs on her labor, but rarely recognizes it as labor. She handles cooking, cleaning, schedules, emotional management, the invisible work that keeps everyone functional, yet none of it appears on a pay stub. The world treats her like she contributes nothing while expecting her to contribute everything. And that disconnect rewires her sense of worth. She starts to believe the money belongs to the person who brought it through the door, even though her work makes that income possible. So when she spends, she feels the weight of a culture that told her she's lucky to be provided for, even though she's providing stability every single day. The guilt comes not from her choices, but from the roles she was told to play. This is where the real fracture forms, not between her and her partner, but inside herself. Even as she knows she keeps everything functioning, there's a part of her that believes she hasn't earned anything. She feels torn between two identities: the woman who holds the family together and the girl who was taught real value only comes with a paycheck. One side knows she's essential. The other side whispers she's replaceable. One side knows the house would collapse without her. The other fears she has no right to the money moving through it. And this tension grows louder every time she buys something for herself. She wonders if she's taking too much, asking too much, wanting too much. Not because she is, but because she was taught her worth should never cost anyone else anything. So she shrinks her needs to protect an identity that quietly erases her. Now the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. The first mechanism is financial hierarchy conditioning. She was taught the person who earns holds power, while the person who holds everything else together simply helps. So she places herself at the bottom of a hierarchy she never agreed to. The second mechanism is invisible labor erasure. The work she does is constant and essential, yet unseen, and what goes unseen eventually feels unworthy. The third mechanism is nervous system training. After years of stretching, saving, and sacrificing, her body reacts to spending with guilt. Her brain isn't responding to money, it's responding to a lifetime of being told she must earn the right to exist comfortably. Together, these mechanisms create a financial identity that keeps her small, even when she is the backbone of the home. But there's another layer no one talks about: the generational wound. She didn't invent this guilt, she inherited it.
If she looks back, she'll see mothers and grandmothers who apologized for wanting anything, who whispered about money like it was a luxury they weren't allowed to touch, who stretched every dollar until it tore because they believed needing less made them good women. She absorbed their tension without ever meaning to. Their fear became her template. Their silence became her script. And without realizing it, she continues a lineage of women who learned to emotionally disappear so the family could thrive. But something shifts when she realizes the guilt was never hers. The moment she sees how deeply she was conditioned to feel unworthy of the resources she helps protect, the spell cracks. She starts questioning the rules she lived by. Why does the income earner have authority? Why must the caregiver justify? Why is her labor invisible until it fails? With each question, her identity rearranges. She stops apologizing for necessities.
She stops shrinking her requests. She stops treating herself like an expense the family must tolerate. Instead, she sees the truth. She isn't lucky to be supported. The entire household is supported because of her. As this awareness deepens, she notices something she never had language for before. Every member of the household depends on her emotional regulation to function. When the kids melt down, she absorbs it. When her partner is stressed, she softens it. When the home feels chaotic, she becomes the order. But no one ever asks who regulates her, who holds her when she collapses, who gives her the permission she keeps giving everyone else. She realizes she's been carrying a silent emotional debt, a debt she never chose, yet keeps paying with her time, her energy, and the soft parts of herself no one sees. This invisible emotional labor would cost thousands a month if outsourced, yet she's been trained to believe it's worth nothing. She also begins seeing how this conditioning distorts her relationship with receiving. She can give endlessly, but the moment something is offered to her, her chest tightens, not because she's ungrateful, but because she was raised to believe that being easy to care for makes her lovable, and being low maintenance makes her good. So rest feels dangerous, help feels indulgent, pleasure feels like debt. And every time she denies herself, the old narrative tightens its grip. Good women don't need too much. She sees now that guilt wasn't protecting her, it was containing her. Yet the moment she sees the mechanism, something loosens. She begins to question why her needs must shrink so everyone else's comfort can expand. And here's the part no one warns her about. When a woman stops shrinking, the system around her starts to shake. Some people adjust, some resist. Some panic when the silence they depended on turns into self-respect. But the real question isn't whether she deserves financial freedom. It's this: what happens when she finally realizes she was never the one who needed permission? That single realization doesn't just shift her relationship with money, it shifts her entire identity. And once she sees it, she can never unsee it. She isn't just healing herself, she's interrupting lineage. And that's when a new question forms, one she never dared ask before, one that sits between who she was and who she is becoming. Because if she was never the one who needed permission, then who exactly has been holding the power she thought she didn't have?